Hi there, it's a beautiful Monday morning and welcome to today's episode of Audacity with PS. My name is Funke Bolodioko. I'm a legal practitioner, and what I do basically is help businesses build successful and sustainable businesses. Alright, so this is the point where you bring out your phone, you share the link with your friends, with your enemies, with your colleagues at work, everybody that you know. I know that you're on a lot of WhatsApp groups, share there, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, anywhere that there is an opportunity to share. All right, let's get into it. All right, welcome again. Before we go into it properly, I would like to appreciate PS, that's our apostle, for this privilege and opportunity to be in your face this Monday morning, sharing today's episode of Audacity with you. Thank you very much, sir. All right, so I'll be speaking to you today on a topic that is very dear to my heart. That's leadership and governance. Why leadership? Why governance, right? I know that when we think of leadership or we say something about leadership, the default thinking is to think about leading other people or governing maybe an organization or a set of people. But before we get into all that, right, I'm going to be looking at this topic from the lens of self-leadership and governance. That's because what you have not mastered with yourself, you cannot do with other people. All right, so what is self-leadership? What is self-governance? It is basically just ensuring that you set yourself up for success, right? It is the way you would ensure that if you have a team of 5 or a team of 4, that they are utilizing the resources that they have to ensure maximum impact, maximum use of those resources to achieve, the highest potential possible. So it's the same thing with leading other people, except in this phase, you are leading yourself, you're governing yourself. Okay, so I like to look into scripture. What does the Bible say about self-governance or self-leadership? Proverbs 25 verse 28, it says that a person who has no rule over him or herself is like a city without walls. And you know what it means when we say city without walls: no defense, no security, nothing to ward off the wild animals, to prevent the enemies from invading. It's an everything go territory, right? So self-leadership, self-governance is quite important because that is how you set yourself up for success. That is how you maximize the resources that God has given to you, your innate abilities, your education, your skills, as a matter of fact, your strength and your weaknesses, to ensure that you put all of that together. Imagine cooking a pot of soup and you use all of that as an ingredient to ensure that what you have is delicious, it's edible, and it's just pleasing to both the eyes and to the mouth. So self-leadership is how you utilize everything that you have, everything that God has given to you, everything that you've acquired through formal and informal education to set yourself up for success. All right, so why is it important for you to have self-leadership? Why is it important for you to have self-governance? Right? Because the same way without leadership, people are going to go amok. Everything is just it's going to be a free trade zone. Anything can just happen. It's the same thing with yourself. Without self-leadership, it's just going to be, going with the trend, going with the flow, and everything go kind of situation. And then God forbid that you get to the end of your journey and then you're like, what have I done with 30 years? What have I done with 40 years? What have I done with 50 years? Right? So that is why self-leadership is important. That is why self-governance is important. And if for any reason you're that person who makes a promise to him or herself and does not keep to it, today's topic is for you. Right? Because it is important that we do the things that we set out to do, all right, so that we can achieve the things that we're meant to achieve. Okay, so if we're speaking about leadership and governance, the first leg of it is self-awareness. If you are not self-aware, then let's not even go into leadership and self-governance. All right, so let's look at the things that you need to practice to be able to effectively practice or be an effective self-governed person or be a person who excels at self-leadership. The first step is to be self-aware, to be true to yourself, to know what makes you tick, what gets you up in your feelings, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what areas are you good at, what areas are you not so good at? Because, there is no person who is a superman in that sense, who can do everything all by themselves, who is strong in every area of life. There are going to be some areas of life where you're strong. Those are your strong suits. And there are going to be some other areas of life where, they're not your strong suits per se, right? Why you act the way you act, why certain things trigger you. To be self-aware is the first step into even becoming somebody who can then now say, okay, you're practicing self-leadership or you're governing yourself, right? So the first thing is be true to yourself. When you're doing this practice of reflection, you're looking inward, right? Be objective. It is yourself. That's the place, that's the one person that you can be truthful with, right? No barriers, no facade, no guards off. It is just you and perhaps a mirror looking into yourself. Why am I this way? These are the things that I am strong at. These are the things that I naturally excel at. These are the things that I have learned. They are acquired skills, acquired strength. And these are the things that no matter how hard I try, mathematics, for example, is not going to be my thing, And then when you do that, the next thing is then to now assign your energies and your strengths, your talent towards the place of your strength, right? So if you're naturally good at communication, you're a people's person, you're intuitive, you're an excellent communicator, practice that. Devote your time to that. Do the things that with little or no energy, with little or no effort, you can thrive. And then the areas where they are not your strong suit, you delegate. Gone are the days where a successful person is the person who can do everything all by themselves. You delegate. If you have people that you're working with, you have a team, whether it is at work, in your personal life, you have people that you're leading, you can delegate the things or the areas where you're not so strong to them. If you cannot delegate because you don't have those people, outsource, right? Use your money to buy time. Use your money to buy the places or the areas where you're not strong. So outsource. If you don't like cooking, for example, don't stress about it and say, oh, I want to be a perfect person. Outsource it. As a matter of fact, the most successful people are the people who have learned how to practice outsourcing. They are the ones who have learned how to use their money to buy back time so that they can then now focus on the areas where it's their area of strength, where they can, produce the most results with little or no effort. That's the smart person. That's a person who understands what self-leadership is and self-governance is about. All right. So, still in line with being self-aware, right, is that you have to practice a lot of self-reflection. Remember that the goal of self-leadership and governance is to maximize, the resources that you have and optimize your performance, right? It is to utilize what you have available to be able to achieve the goals or, the things that you're meant to do at a particular point in time, right? So you have to be that person who practices a lot of self-reflection. Why do I behave in a certain way? Why do certain things get to me? Why am I irritable when, I'm in a particular area of life? Or maybe, why am I irritable when I'm hungry? Why does issues surrounding poverty or female mortality, why does it get to me? Why do certain things trigger certain emotions with me? The idea is that you're setting yourself up for success, right? Which then brings me to the next point, which is that you have to be deliberate about creating systems and structures that help you be a successful person, right? So there is the part where there's certain things where you create systems and structures around, you delegate, you even automate certain things so that you're not spending your time doing repetitive activities, that you can easily utilize tools and technology to automate and just put on autopilot so that it then also frees you time to be able to do other things. All right. So that also is very key in self-leadership, in governing yourself. And these rules or these principles or these nuggets, actually, they are not just for self-leadership. You can still transpose the same rules, the same principles, the same ideas into leading a team, whether at work, in church, in a project that you're working on, wherever it is, the same things apply, right? So for a team, for example, the idea is that you utilize the people that you have in the areas of their strength. You know that A, for example, is good with ideation, you let him ideate. B, for example, might not thrive at ideation, but is an excellent executor. You let the person execute. C, for example, don't give him ideation, maybe not give him execution, but is a troop rallier. This person can, galvanize a set of people, can encourage them, can help them to achieve a particular purpose. You need that kind of a person, and you give them what you know is their strong suit. You just maximize each person's strong suit, each person's strength, and you put it together so that you can achieve your goals and the results that you desire. Remember, when we're talking about self-reflection, the idea is to be aware. Be aware, live aware, practice being aware. Let nothing catch you off guard, right? It's not when somebody down points out an area that you're listening or hearing it for the very first time, right? I know the places where I'm not strong at. I know the things that don't stress me with it. And I know the things that are my natural, I'm just naturally good at them. So I'll play to those things. I'll not waste my time saying, oh, I'm not good at X, Y, Z. I don't care, right? If I can delegate it to somebody else, I delegate it. If I can use my money to buy strength, I pay somebody who is extremely good at it and I move on, right? So be aware, live aware, be aware of yourself, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of your emotions, be aware of the people in your team. And that's how you practice leadership, whether for yourself and whether for a team. So speaking of being aware, remember that the goal is to live aware. So like we rightly said, the first thing is to practice self-reflection a lot, to manage your stressors, the things that get you worked up, the things that put you in a funny space, and you just manage them. You manage stress, right? I cannot promise you a life of that is totally void of stress, right? But the key to leadership and governance is that you understand how to manage your stress, to manage your stressors. Why does being in traffic in Lagos stress you, for example? But if you live in Lagos, there probably is nothing that you can do about traffic, right? So how can I better manage being in traffic in a way that it does not, put me in a place where I am not balanced and then I am agitated? Can I read a book? Can I listen to a message? Can I sleep off if you're not driving? What can you do, to better manage your stressors? Another thing is to become your own boss. So remember how your boss at work is like your manager, right? This person understands the areas of your strength and he just lets you play to that strength. This person understands the areas of your weaknesses. And if you have a good manager, hopefully you have a good manager, they are recommending you for training, for performance improvement, activities in the areas where you're not so strong. You discuss about the challenges that you're having. Basically, it just manages you at work. You have to be that person for yourself. As PS has said over and over and over again, life is a non-transferable responsibility. Newsflash, nobody's coming to save you, right? Nobody's coming to do the heavy lifting. We're leading yourself so that you can also then lead other people, or governing yourself so that you can maximize impact and, optimize your performance is concerned. You are the one who would say that, okay, so I know that in this area, I'm acing it, I'm doing well. And in this other area, I'm not so good. So what can I do, to make these areas where I'm not really that great become, better? Do I have to take courses, take learnings, read books, listen to podcasts? Do I have to delegate? Do I have to employ other people? Do I have to leverage on other people's strength? Just make sure that you are a good boss of yourself, because if you cannot, boss, quote unquote, yourself, you cannot then manage other people. All right. And flowing from being a good boss of yourself is that you have to set goals and be accountable. Don't be that person that says, I am going to read 5 books at the end of first quarter, and it's the ending of July already, and you have not read one book at all. Don't be that person, right? If there was somebody, checking up on you saying, oh, have you done XYZ thing? You probably would have read it. So if you make commitments to yourself, you keep it. If you cannot keep it to yourself, that's why it's important that you are in a community. You have people that can hold you accountable. So you go and speak to somebody. Remember the thing about you leveraging your own strength and then delegating areas where you're not so strong to other people. You can leverage your community as well. I have friends that I speak to and say, I want to do so thing, and I'll need you accountable to hold me accountable for that. God help you that you have that kind of a friend that would set up reminders, set up a Google Sheet, tracking, execution of the things that you say you are going to do. So if you cannot do it for yourself, find somebody that you can be accountable to. Another thing while practicing self-leadership and governance is that you prioritize your well-being, right? We are not of that school of thought where you have to sacrifice, your well-being and everything else so that you can achieve certain goals. The key is that you're balanced, right? You can find a balance. You can juggle multiple balls and not one of them is dropping off, right? Prioritize your well-being. You are that cup. If you're not full, you cannot flow into other people. You cannot even do anything if you're not full of by yourself, right? So prioritize your well-being. Eat well, rest well, distress in the way that, you can, do the things that make your soul tick. Just make sure that you're prioritizing yourself. All right. And then just to wrap it up for you, I'm going to give you 6 points that you can begin to immediately think of where we're looking at leadership and governance. Where leadership and governance is concerned, what are 6 things that I should keep at the back of my mind, flowing off this segment of Audacity with PS today? The first thing is to learn how to be self-driven, right? As much as it is good to look out to other people or other things for inspiration, for motivation, right? You've got to get to that point where you can do that for yourself. A key trait that the workplace of the future or the team of the future, the church of the future, or anything of the future is looking for are people who are self-driven, right? The second thing is to set goals and stick with them. Set goals and stick with them. Set goals and stick with them. Your talk and do ratio, there's got to be a balance. You can't be all talks and no doing, right? You have to be that person who says, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and you get it done. Another thing is to have core values. What are your core values as a person, right? What are the things that matter to you, right? Is excellence a core value for you? Is honesty and integrity a core value for you? Identify them right ahead of time so that when you get into situations where you want to compromise or where compromising is easy, you then remember that, this is a core value for me. I'm not going to budge. I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to go against it just because I am in a difficult position. All right. Another thing is to be result-oriented and purpose-driven. Of course, this is the new. There is a line in our creed that says that, we are result-oriented and we are purpose-driven. All right. You're living a result-oriented life based on the principles in God's word. Be result-oriented. Be purpose-driven. Don't just, go with the flow. Don't be that person who says, Q Sarah, Sarah, right? Q Sarah will never Sarah if you don't do what is required for Q Sarah to Sarah, right? So be result-oriented. Be purpose-driven. Okay, so another thing that you need to keep at the back of your mind as we gradually bring this segment to a close today is to learn the art of communication. Communication is an art that can be learned, right? Learn how to communicate powerfully, concisely. You want to say X, Y, Z thing, learn how to say it in a way that it is clear. The person that you're communicating to can grasp what it is that you're saying to them, in the most simplest way possible. If you need to be assertive, know when to be assertive. If you need to, utilize emotional intelligence and, also take your communication, but be that person who is excellent at communicating so that you know what to do at particular times. Yeah. Another thing is to learn how to collaborate. A good leader, a person who is self-governed, knows the importance of collaboration. Collaborate, don't compete, right? So learn the people that you can leverage on their own strength in your own areas of weaknesses and vice versa. Finally, self-awareness, self-regulation is key. Remember that the person who cannot regulate themselves cannot govern or lead other people. Do not forget what the scripture in Proverbs 25 verse 28 says, right? That person who cannot govern himself, right, is like a city without walls. You're not a city without walls. So self-regulation is going to be key for you to be that person who knows how to practice leadership and governance, whether for yourself, for teams, or for external bodies. All right, so that brings us to the end of today's episode of Audacity with PS. I know without any shadow of doubt that you have learned 1 or 2 things that you can, immediately begin to use to ensure that, you're acing self-leadership, you're acing self-governance, and you're becoming a better leader for other people. So it is time to take our creed. We're going to raise our hands. Hopefully you're not behind the wheels, but raise your hands and say after me, as sure as God helps me, I will not give up. I will not cave in. I will not quit. I will not fail. I will not fear. I will not die until my job is done. Our victory is won. I am the new and I love this church. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Audacity with PS. Have a blessed week. Bye.